Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guests, Rhonda and Jason Halbert, and they're here to share with us the next book in the Goodpasture Chronicles, Servant. From the award-winning Goodpasture Chronicles, where Caretaker claimed 9 literary awards, comes the next mysterious chapter, Servant. I just love diving into a book that captivates you, and this series does that. Kirkus Review praised Servant as a page-turner with real literary depth, and BookLife called it a moody, unsettling thriller that thrives on family tension, making this series one you'll want to pick up and dive into. Jason Halbert is an Emmy and Grammy Award-winning producer and songwriter whose music has reached millions through multiple #1 and platinum-selling albums. With a career spanning over 2 decades as music director and producer for The Kelly Clarkson Show and other notable artists, Jason has also left his creative mark on numerous works in film and television. Rhonda Halbert has spent the past decade as a successful music and television manager, building strong relationships with labels, networks, and producers. She's also a published photographer, music supervisor, passionate cook, garden enthusiast, and spiritual practitioner. Together, the Halberts write under the pen name R.J. Halbert. So welcome to the show, Rhonda and Jason Halbert.
Thank you. Thanks for having us again.
Hello again. It's great to be back.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have the both of you here. I am just so inspired just with your story and the work that you do and how this came together in this very compelling novel. How did your personal experiences, I know we've talked about this before, but maybe for our listeners that are new to your story, how did your personal experiences of loss and grief and resilience influence the series' tone and the emotional depth that it has?
As you said, we're going to speak as if there are some listeners that have not heard our story before, but I will keep it briefer this time. We had a couple of years of intense trauma of losing both our mothers within 2 years of each other and some family members, and then about 10 people through COVID. And then we lost our home. And by the time we lost our home to a flood, it was just like we had been sitting in grief for so long. We just didn't know what to do with ourselves. And it became harder and harder just to get through the day because you're just so depressed. And so a friend of ours recommended a brain treatment called Cereset. And in that treatment, basically what it does is it just teaches your brain to calm down and not be either depressed or in panic or anxiety, and just helps you to process your pain better, helps you to process your situations or your struggle that you're going through better. So we both did that. And when Jason was done with his treatment, he came home and he started saying, I had this vision in my head, and then he started to tell it. And as soon as he started, I just knew something was unique and different about it. So I pulled out my phone and started to record it through voicemail or voice memo. And we sat there for about 3.5 hours and created this entire book series, which sounds so ridiculous when it comes out of my mouth, but that is truly how it happened. Say all that background just to lay the foundation of when you're in trauma and grief and depression, it's really, really hard to be creative. And we were just so tired of being stuck in our grief, and then became so thankful that this brain treatment allowed our brains to calm down and let creativity flow again. And as soon as it did, it gave us an outlet to be able to process our grief and our pains and our struggles. And so writing the book is influenced by our personal lives, but it's not a one-to-one of our stories. But we took what we knew from our pain and our grief and our struggles and created these characters who have individual stories on their own. And we put them on an adventure, and a very mysterious adventure. So it's not, the story itself is not heavy, but it did come from that heavy time in our lives.
It's so empowering that, and I think for a lot of people that can hear how you took these really difficult times. And I applaud the both of you, because if I had one of those things happen recently, I had my place flooded and had to make a move. And that was insane, dealing with that in a short period of time and having to make adjustments, but then to also go through loss of family members and different things that are happening within the family unit there, where there's just profound and prolonged grief. It is just amazing that the both of you were able to create something so dramatic and so heartfelt. I mean, my hats are really off to you.
Oh,
Well, thank you. And it's what's funny to me is that this was all very unintentional in the sense of at the time, I actually felt guilty about working on a book because it felt like escapism. We didn't want to face our problems anymore. It was, you know, everywhere I looked, everything that brought normalcy and comfort one by one was gone, whether it was family members or our home. And this is coming out of the pandemic when we couldn't gather with people. So everything was stripped away. So this felt like pure escapism. And we poured ourselves into this and found out later on when a doctor therapist friend of ours told us that inadvertently what we had done is practiced a form of therapy called DBT, where you externalize your trauma through stories. And so we ended up placing our trauma into these other characters, watching it unfold. And then the messages these characters were sending back to us was healing again for us. So I appreciate the compliment that it was heartfelt, and I guess it's because it literally came from our hearts. And there was no intention to do that other than it just overflowed from what we were processing at the time.
And in all honesty, we created this story not even thinking about writing a book, not even thinking about publishing. None of that was on the horizon. It was just something that allowed us to stop thinking about ourselves. We just didn't want to think about another day. And this just allowed us to live outside of that. So for us, it brought us joy, and it brought creativity and release. And so that was the first intent.
Well, and looking back on the people that you were at that time, where with Jason, where you got this idea like, hey, I can see this storyline unfolding to where you are now. Do you see a major degree in healing that's happened with both of you and the family as well?
There's certainly been healing in many areas. Some things are ongoing, but I would say that the book shifted our worldview as I was watching these characters face their problems, which sounds so cliche to say that these characters were living their own lives, but as first time authors, we were just as shocked as anyone else to find out that really does happen. It caused us to think in different ways. I think it was a combination of the process itself of writing this book changed the way our brain was working and creating, and then some of the truths that unfolded as we did even research into the story definitely influenced our worldview, so that even after the first book was done, as we ended up facing some additional trauma that we weren't expecting, it shifted sort of the way that we processed that. And so it was almost like this world that we created was teaching us.
Yeah, just adding to really kind of adding to your story as you guys continue to go through your healing journey. Because I mean, we all face grief, but it's what we do with it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, it is, all this talk of trauma and grief. It still is a fun story, especially book two, Servant. We've created, there's a lot of humor in the book. We've created some really special moments in the family that we've drawn from our own lives, which is, I think, is something we tend to do when you're going through grief. You go through waves of loss and mourning for something that's not there, and then you go through wonderful memories of things that were and the joy that that brought. And so there's a lot of adventure and joy in the book as well that accompanies the grief.
Well, and thank you for mentioning that, because I know we're talking in just about your family's journey, but the book itself is a very compelling read, and I know it's getting such great reviews. Before we dive into Servant, for our listeners that are new, can you share a little bit about Caretaker?
Yeah. So Caretaker is about a family that moves from Boston to Littleton, New Hampshire. They feel like they need a big change in their life. There's been some struggles in the family, personal, work, marital. And so they move away to a smaller town to really focus on their family. And when they get there, they find a house that they feel really compelled to. And in fact, the mother, Liana, feels probably more compelled to um, take on this house. And they all agree. And when they do, they realize that there is a caretaker that comes with the property and a very mysterious man. They don't know his history. They're not sure why he's there. But it's over 40 acres of land, and they realize that this is something they've never done before, so they needed the help. So they're okay with this idea. And then craziness ensues. The house is very mysterious. Secret rooms appear out of nowhere. Moments where you don't know if you're flashing back to a memory or are you actually reliving it. Um, a dangerous situation with wiring in the house and the mother's brain. Um, there's a situation with some bees that attack, and so there's this whole thing that's happening that's sort of revealing itself only after they've moved into the house. So when Jason and I go out and do book signings or Comic Con or anything like that, I like to say that the family's not quite sure, is the house trying to kill them, or is the house actually trying to save them from something even more sinister?
Ooh, that's
Dun,
such a
dun,
good
dun.
description. Well, and I have to say, after reading book one, like many of your fans, I was one of the people going, "Where's book two? I can't wait for what is it? There's cliffhangers. What's going on here?"
We definitely did that on purpose. That's sort of where Jason's gifting is. He loves all the cliffhangers and the Easter eggs and the surprises, and that was rule number one from the beginning. He knew absolutely that that was how book one was going to end, and so we wrote everything up to that point for Caretaker. And it is quite of a doozy. And I can honestly say that Servant picks up within 5 minutes of that cliffhanger. So if you haven't read Caretaker, you now will not have to wait except for maybe a week. And then Servant will be out, and then you won't be tortured for too long waiting on that cliff.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So, well, and can we dive into that a little bit without giving away spoilers? Can you just share a little bit about Servant with us?
Yeah, Servant picks up where Caretaker left off. Servant's the book that I wanted to write from the beginning, um, because it has a lot of the supernatural and the mysteries and the intrigue. Wisely, Rhonda, we steered Caretaker more towards developing the family. So it was a bit of a slower build. And I'm so glad we did it that way because I feel like people are so invested in these characters, they can't wait to see what's happening and they actually care about what's happening to it. Um, so without giving away spoilers, as with any plot line, um, there's a situation, then there's a problem, and then there's some resolve. And you feel at the end of book one that everything's resolved and everybody's happy. And book two starts off, you realize that things are about to take a much worse turn than anyone could have possibly imagined. And hopefully, this family is well equipped to deal with it after what they've dealt with in book one. But spoilers, they're not equipped to deal with it. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, I know that book two is a page turner. So as soon as I started diving into it, I mean, it's a book where you have to kind of plan. I mean, for me at least, I know I started reading it on Friday and I'm so grateful that I did. Because if I started on Monday, there's no way I could attend work or do anything that I needed to do because I would be invested in that book.
I love to hear that.
yeah, it can definitely, even knowing the book as well as we do, I find myself reading it over and over reliving some of these scenes. And we've just started hosting. We just started hosting our first book club, and we've really enjoyed this experience. And of course, I love all the mysteries and the Easter eggs and the intrigue. But I found that we really encourage people to read the books the first time through just as a pure spectator and just enjoy the ride. Don't worry about trying to figure things out. And then your second read, you're going to start seeing some things that are thematic and connected in a way you probably didn't catch the first time around. And then with this book club, it's been really fun to dive into the nitty-gritty details that don't matter to the story, but that people find fascinating, to connect the story to these characters.
Well, let's talk about your book club for a minute. What's the name of it, and what does that mean?
It's called the Ouroboros Society, and the Ouroboros is the graphic visual of a snake eating its tail. And that is an ancient drawing, an ancient image, which basically means always repeating, infinity, always
It
coming
symbolizes
back
the cycle of
to.
life, birth and rebirth and death. And
Yeah, and that happens to be on, or a version of it happens to be on our cover of Caretaker. I had a vision one night, actually, in the middle of the night, and saw the picture and woke up the next morning, and I cannot draw to save my life. So I called my niece, and she's an incredible sketch artist, and I tried to describe it to her as best I could, and we went back and forth until we got the image that you see on the cover of Caretaker, and she just captured what was in my head so well. And the reason we chose that is because this whole series is about generations. It's about repeating cycles. But what we're trying to impose into this theory is ways to break a cycle, or ways to break a curse, or ways to break a problem and not having to go around that mountain again and again. So, yeah, so that's the Ouroboros. And we thought it'd be fun to call our little book club the Ouroboros Society. And we started the society by encouraging people to go and pre-order the book, and then they can join us and we will read 10 chapters at a time until we get to the end. And then every week we join together and we discuss those 10 chapters. And I have thoroughly enjoyed that. I feel like Jason and I have been sitting on these secrets for a very long time, and it's been so fun to be able to reveal a little bit more in our little society. This is a group of people who are really truly invested in the story, in the characters, and in us. And so it's been really fun to kind of bring them along in this journey.
I am part of your guys' book club. Of course, I mean, who wouldn't be? It's such a great book club, especially when you're diving into a lot of the secrets that are held within the series. And it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of like the Harry Potter series, where you don't really get everything at face value when you watch a movie or what have you. You have to really dive into the books to really understand what is happening.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm going to give props to Jason on that. That is, his brain is like that. He's got 20 levels in his whole thought processes. And I'm more of the relationships and the characters and the heart. And so I think that that's actually how we've worked so well together, is my brain doesn't naturally go in that direction, but his does. So he inspires all of that, and then I help flesh it out to bringing some life to it.
Well, a great combination you guys have there. I'll give you
Thank
definitely
you.
kudos for that. Oh my gosh, yeah. And I know you probably have people already clamoring for book 3 because it's a trilogy. And so I even hate to ask this because, book 2 is now just out. So what are the predictions for when book 3 will be available?
well, as we're launching Servant, we're in the final chapters of Architect, which will be I was going to say final, but it's the last of the trilogy. But there's more in this world to come. But the goal is to release Architect on June 3rd of next year, and again, it's a faster turnaround. We had a year or so between Caretaker and Servant, and that was just due to some life hiccups came along the way. But this time we're able to get it out quicker, and we're almost there. So we're looking forward to the trilogy being wrapped up next June. And I think we're gonna have some more writing to do because I wasn't able to cover everything that we wanted to cover in these 3 books. So.
Well, I guess I'll be patient then. I'll just be patient. I'm not really good at doing that, but I'll do my best. One question I've always wanted to ask the both of you is just the name, the Goodpasture Chronicles. Where did that come from?
So that is actually inspired by, so the house that I mentioned earlier that we flooded and we actually had to move out, it was over 60% damage, and insurance fully paid out. It was just a big disaster on it. That particular house was owned by the Goodpasture family, which is a real family that have a lot of history in Nashville. I don't personally know them. This story is not based on their family. It's just their name. Their name was so fascinating to me and Jason. We just loved it. And it fit the theme of our book. So that's how it stuck. So we call it the Goodpasture Chronicles because the house that inspired it was actually owned by the real Goodpasture family.
And in the book, it'll make sense. I know it's odd to call a series the Goodpasture Chronicles when Mr. Goodpasture in the book is probably only mentioned about 5 times in the first book. And in Caretaker, Mr. Goodpasture is the one who built the home that they're moving into. However, as we've told our book club, in fact, I would say that Mr. Goodpasture probably appears on every single page of the entire trilogy. He is the central character of the entire series.
You just have to have the eyes to see it.
And you will after Architect is done.
Yep.
I'm sure it's one of these series, and I'll know this after I get Architect in my hand someday, but it's one of these series where you read it and then you go back and reread it. And it's like, oh, there's an Easter egg I didn't get last time or a little hidden gem. Oh, I understand that now.
Well, that's been the hope and the intent. Now we are first time writers. And so to us, we're like, oh my gosh, did we actually do it? And did we do it well? But yes, that's been our intent. And I will say a lot of that was inspired by the TV series Lost. That was Jason's absolute favorite show. And he just loved how they told that story. And they were so good about setting up an idea and then just not giving you that carrot until the very, very end of the series. And your whole brain just goes, what? And so you go back and you watch it again and you're like, oh my gosh, it was there from the first episode.
And another thing, I mean, I was definitely highly influenced by the writers of Lost, but one thing that we've incorporated that I enjoy is that when there's long-running mysteries, as a viewer, I don't like it when you're looking in that world and everybody seems okay with it. There's like, oh, that's not important now. What's important is, and they just kind of pass on. Well, Lost used some of their characters as the voice of the audience. So like Hurley would say the things that we were thinking, like, is anybody else okay with the fact that there's a weird smoky monster running around? So one of our characters, Ariel, she's a teenage girl and she journals, and it's been fun being able to write things because I know our readers are saying, okay, are we all okay with the fact that this just happened and this family's not talking about it? And she's giving voice to that as well, which I've really enjoyed that process.
That has been so much fun to read in the books because I'll tell you, I think most people will look at that going, what the heck is going on here? Why is no one freaking out? You know?
Oh, Ariel's freaking out and she's very mad that the rest of the family is not. But it's good. You need to have, if you're going to write a fiction, you need to have some realism in there to carry that fiction along. And she is that character.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Rhonda and Jason Halbert of the Goodpasture Chronicles series and their next book, Servant, which is available on Amazon and your local bookstore.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halbert. They say time heals all wounds. But what happens when time makes the first cut? A child vanishes, the family unravels, ancient powers stir. The much-anticipated follow-up to the breakout bestseller, Caretaker. R.J. Halbert's servant plunges deeper into the Goodpasture legacy, where dark secrets, chilling curses, and unbreakable hope collide. Fans who were hooked from the start will find even more suspense, emotion, and haunting twists in this gripping continuation of the Goodpasture Chronicles.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guests, Rhonda and Jason Halbert, who's here to share with us the Goodpasture Chronicles' next novel, Servant. Well, it seems that the both of you just dove in headfirst into, just taking on the series and writing it, and what a great job you've done. What are some of the things you've learned along the way?
I would say I've actually found my confidence along the way, which I started to doubt myself. I don't know if it was because of the trauma that I was going through at the time. I felt like I lost myself. I lost who I was. I lost my confidence. I lost my identity. And also, this wasn't really too far past becoming empty nesters as well. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. And what's my identity after that? What do you do? And so, yeah, I would say that's what I found along the way was my confidence in who I am and my ability to actually write. I'm dyslexic. Thank you for computers. They are brilliant. They catch all of my mistakes, and I'm so thankful for that. But what I've been able to tell, even through my mistakes, is that, well, Jason and I, we kind of live a fantastical life and we tell really good stories. And so we may as well put it into words. And I found the confidence to do that.
I think that's just remarkable. What would you say, Jason?
I've been trying to come up with something the entire time Rhonda was talking, and I think I've learned that yes, it is possible to cram one more thing into the day. No, it's without giving spoilers. It's changed my worldview on how to process some of the things happening in our life. Like the book is a supernatural thriller, and I'm somewhat joking, but somewhat not. I always refer to Rhonda and I as Mulder and Scully from the X-Files. And Rhonda is the believer in all things supernatural and woohoo. And she would be happy to see a angel or a demon in person. And I would rather go the rest of my life without seeing anything. And this book, the process of it and how we explore the relationship to the supernatural and the physical has definitely opened me up a little bit more to possibly processing things a bit differently when I see things happening in my life. And not so much wondering how the supernatural is affecting me, but this book explores how maybe we can affect the supernatural through things in the physical.
I think that that's a remarkable viewpoint to look at it that way, because most of the time people, when they think about the supernatural, are like, oh, what's going to happen to me, as opposed to the power that we hold and what we can do just in the world around us.
Yeah, it just seems like just based off of pure science that if we're going to accept that there is an unseen realm or things that are just beyond natural, that usually means we just don't quite understand it yet. It can't be a one-way interaction. Just energy flows both ways. So if it can have an effect on us, then most certainly we would have to be able to have an effect on it.
Without a doubt.
I think.
I'll go with that. Oh my gosh. Well, I know I haven't asked this before because just haven't, but is there like a hidden gem or Easter egg that you can share with us?
Processing here.
Yeah, just
try not to
process.
give you radio silence.
Well, I will say this. in our in our Ouroboros society, I have to sit next to Jason and nudge him because he just keeps releasing secrets that they're not supposed to know just yet. And so I'm just trying to be really careful not to spoil it because I really want the book to be I want it to have that wow factor. So I don't want to spoil too much. But if this is for the people that have actually read Caretaker, if you've read Caretaker, then you will know Ariel is the teenage daughter and Marshall is the caretaker. And there is a scene where Ariel finds an old stereoscope, which actually, if you look up the history of Littleton, New Hampshire, Littleton was one of the biggest hubs of the creators of the old Victorian stereoscopes, which is one of those, what is it called? It's the thing where you have a photo in front of it and you move it back and forth with a viewer screen.
Yeah.
I'm showing hands as if you can see what I'm doing. Anyway, it's one of those old Victorian viewers. And you put a photo in front of it and you can move it forward or backwards and it gives you this 3D look to it. And those were developed in the late 1800s. And Littleton, New Hampshire is where that was mostly produced for the United States. And so in book 2, Ariel finds an old stereoscope in the attic and she finds a box of old photos. And she pulls out one particular photo because she recognizes the house in the photo. And there's someone special standing next to the house.
I think one fun Easter egg too is that on the back cover of Caretaker and the back cover of Servant, you'll see symbols and they're written in 3 different languages and they're different. And on the back of Caretaker, if you take the time, all 3 languages are saying one word. And at the end of Servant on the back cover, they're all saying a different word. And those words are pretty much the mystery of that entire book, of what it's leading to.
Yes.
And so good luck. Most people will be able to figure out at least 1 or 2 of the languages, but a lot of people are getting stumped on what the 3rd language is. So if you're a detective person, that'll at least give you an idea where we're going with all of this.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was looking for my book right now when you were saying that. Okay, so I'm going to get us out of danger zone because we don't want to do any spoilers here. But I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the audiobook that was released for Caretaker. My goodness, what an accomplishment that was. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, we released Caretaker first as we did a hardback and a paperback. And the amount of people that asked for an audiobook was overwhelming. And to be honest, I've never listened to an audiobook in my life. I'm a physical page reader. And so I started doing some research. I said, okay, yeah, of course, we're going to do an audiobook. And so I started listening to some audiobooks. And it was not a comfortable experience for me because when I read books, I have many voices in my head. The characters, not the other voices. And so the narrator wasn't lining up with the voices in my head. And so I'm like, well, we need to do a multicast. We need to have different actors. And Rhonda let me run with this. And we ended up putting together a wish list of who we would like to play these characters. And everybody said yes. We ended up with over 12 actors. We had Henry Ian Cusick from Lost. He played Desmond on Lost. We had Amy Grant as the mother. We had Michael Shanks from the Stargate franchise, Eric Avari from Stargate and The Mummy, Haley Arantia from the Goldbergs, Charles Eston from Nashville, Kelly Clarkson from the Kelly Clarkson Show, plethora of people. And as if that wasn't enough, we added sound effects, full, you're immersed, it's surround in your ears. And so you're literally living out these scenes. And I thought, Joe Trapanese did the score. People might know his music from The Greatest Showman or Tron Legacy or Oblivion, straight out of Compton. He's absolutely incredible. And he brought some of these worlds to life. And what I, as a producer and have produced singles for radio and TV, I know what it takes to do a 3.5-minute song. I had no idea the amount of work it was going to take to do a 6.5-hour audiobook. So it took us a little bit longer than the month I thought it would take. It ended up being almost about a year, but we couldn't be more proud of what what the end product was. And as a result, we actually ended up rewriting some of Servant along the way, because now in my mind, these voices have become these characters, and the way they talk and their personalities have influenced how these characters act in book two.
Well, I'm just going to say thank you, because I also, when I'm listening to audiobooks and they have different characters and it's the same voice, I have a hard time connecting with that. So being able to have a full cast, and of course, of all these amazing people, thank you for producing it in the way that you did, because they talk about the audiobook being like it's like a movie experience for listeners. And that is so true.
It really, for me, we created it and I enjoy it. So for me, it actually just sparks the visuals in my head. I do see the movie in my head, and that's fun for me. I'll drive in the car and listen to it, and I'll giggle. I will cry. I will smile. And there's nobody else in the car with me except for that audiobook. And I feel like I'm in the story. And so I can honestly say all I did was just help produce the recordings of the actors, but Jason did all of the hard work after that. And he just did such a phenomenal job that I forget that I'm not in this world. I feel like I'm in that world. When you hit that play button, all of a sudden you're immersed, and it's fun.
And it shows the power of sound and of music, because you would think we'd be numb to some of these scenes that we wrote. And then hearing them again with music added brought new waves of emotion, new waves of grief and processing for us. And so it really is impactful when you can marry the written word with sound. And it's why I'm so passionate about we're trying to develop this into a series, because I think once we take the word, mix it with sound, and then add the visuals, I think it's going to take the story to a whole new level.
Oh, yes. I would agree 1,000% on that. I mean, when you guys sent me the commercial, which we gladly play on the show, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I want to be where that is taking place. Put me in that story.
That is Eric Avari, and he plays the character Marshall. And the first time we had him read for that role, I just melted in my chair. I got the biggest grin on my face. I'm looking at him through the recording studio window, and I'm just about in tears. And I'm like his voice just embodies that character, the mystery and the depth. And so, yeah, we had him read the voiceover for the commercial and for the trailer that we're building, because it's so perfect.
Yeah, that, and oh my goodness, just the music score with it sounds so intriguing.
Yeah, and there's actually, for the people who either join our book club or want to message online, Joe was so great to even add some Easter eggs into the music that sort of gives hints as to everything's telling a story. So even the music in the audiobook is telling more of a story than what's necessarily being heard.
Okay, I don't think my brain can take anymore. That's pretty impressive. That just blew my mind. Okay, so I didn't know about that. I must have missed a book club get together, because I did not get that memo.
I'm just saying, this is how Jason's brain works. It's never enough just to have beautiful music. It's actually part of the story, and it reveals as long as you are identifying with those parts, and his brain just doesn't stop. So I'm thankful for him as a partner.
I'm just fascinated by that aspect of storytelling, and so many people do it well. I mean, the new series Severance on Apple TV, I'll watch these YouTube videos afterwards, and I'm missing things that what different colors mean throughout the series, or there's a certain sound that happens, or even in Lost, you'd probably never even hear it on your TV unless you were in headphones, and you would hear a certain whisper in the background, and all those things, they're not vital to the story, just like some seasonings aren't vital to food, but they sure enhance the experience.
Well, I mean, you can have a steak with no salt, or you can have a really good steak that tastes amazing. So that storytelling just is like the season of life.
And we're fortunate to live in a time where so many great writers and producers have already paved the way for people to be open to this type of storytelling. And yeah, hopefully continuing a line of what they've started.
Well, I can't wait for the next audiobook. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I've got the
Me too.
Kindle. I bet, right? I've got the Kindle. I've got the book. I've got the collector's edition. I have the audiobook. I I've got it all lined up, and I'm not ever giving those away. So,
Well, I can say that we are going to be releasing an audiobook version where it is Henry Ian Cusick reading the whole thing. And that was the simplest version that we could get out quickly because we had such a huge demand from, I would say, 50% of the people who at least spoke to us about it. They were like, where's the audiobook? Where's the audiobook? And so I'm just going to say for the people listening, it is so hard to do both. So kudos to all the authors who can do that. So we have Henry Ian Cusick reading the whole thing, but he took his time to read each character in different voices, and it took a lot longer than we all expected. And I do appreciate that because that meant he took care to differentiate each voice, each character, and set them all apart. So hopefully that will suffice for now. I thought he did a beautiful reading. He had me in tears by the end of the book. So I think everybody else will respond in a great way. And then we're going to release book 3 on June 3rd, like Jason said. And then we will work on fully developing the full audio version of book 2 and book 3, and maybe have like a whole entire package of the greatest movie ever told of the Goodpasture Chronicles.
okay, just let me know when I can buy that. So, yeah.
Will do.
Well, and so I know there's so many wonderful book clubs out there that are looking for books exactly like this. But, a lot of times they don't have the pleasure of having authors actually join a book club for a discussion. You guys do that, right?
Yeah, we offer virtual book club appearances. I'm a visual face-to-face person, so it's so much easier to connect with people when you can see faces over Zoom and yeah, and so I have 2 other full-time jobs on top of this. So does Rhonda, and it's not easy to travel all the time, but we have opened ourselves up for virtual book club appearances, and we really enjoy discussing our art with people. And as we've learned in this last one, we love learning people's stories and their lives, and we've actually been able to look at our book in different ways through their eyes as well. So we thoroughly enjoy the experience.
Yeah, those discussions are just so intriguing, the questions that come from it, and just the different level of questions you get, I'm sure, probably make you think more about, oh gosh, we didn't see this connection, or they got that connection.
Oh my goodness, that's been the surprise to me is I think we wrote it from one perspective and then you kind of forget that other people have different perspectives. And when they read the book and they come back at you and they're like, "Oh, I see what you did here." And then they put in their version of it. That just not only does it warm my heart, but it stuns me. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you can find a piece of you, a piece of your story in each of these books, and you can see it from your perspective." And my hope is that no matter which direction anybody comes to reading these books in this series, the overarching storyline is we wanted to impart hope. Hope is the number one thing that needs to come out of this story of, for us, it was for our grief, and it was hope that there would be restoration. And for these characters, the same thing. There's hope for restoration for the storyline that's carrying them through. And I would love to be able to sit with people and hear their stories and see how it's impacted them. And we love to always tell how it's impacted us.
Well, I'm sure you're getting a lot of that through the book club of people reaching out saying, "Hey, this book has really affected me this way, and I'm going through such a difficult time."
We actually just got a beautiful 3-page letter from someone that's in our Ouroboros Society, and she wanted to share. So to back up a little bit, when Jason and I sign books, I always write in the books, "Listen to the whispers." And there's some whispering that happens in Caretaker and in Servant. And so I'm wanting to kind of teach people to kind of quiet your surroundings and listen for those whispers. And we got this beautiful 3-page letter from a lady in our group talking about one of the most impactful moments where she stopped to listen to the whispers while she was treating an animal. And she does chiropractic work on animals and humans. And I was holding back tears only because I was just about to step into another interview and I didn't want to mess up my makeup.
Oh my
But
goodness.
the story was so incredible where she actually took that advice of listen to the whispers and she put it into practice, and how impactful it was in a positive way to that animal that she was treating. The animal got up and just started walking when it couldn't even get up and walk before she arrived. So it was absolutely beautiful. I want to hear more of those stories. So yes, we want to continue to do book clubs. We want to continue to meet with people. I love stories. I love storytelling, and I want to hear other people's stories as well.
My goodness, what a great story. And, I think that's one thing that we could all do is listen for the whispers. And what a great way to look at life.
I think so, and I would have to say that's probably another lesson that I learned from this was learning to quiet my world around me, quiet the panic and the sadness and the anxiety and the grief, and take some time to listen to the whispers. And I think when we do that, we're actually pleasantly surprised to the goodness that's all around us, and we can become thankful. And in that thankfulness, you can use it to better someone else's life and to better your own. But I think when we can better our own and better our outlook on life, that's when we impact each other. And I think that we can better our world.
Yeah, I have to say, diving into the Goodpasture Chronicles has really helped me get to a place where I can quiet my mind because I'm really invested. And I don't think I can say that highly enough, like really invested in this storyline and what's happening. But I think for a lot of people that get stuck in stress and anxiety and grief and loss, can find a place too where they would at least have moments where they can have silence and just kind of reconnect to themselves through reading your books.
I would hope so. That was truly, truly our intent. And again, we're first time authors, and so my hope is that's what we've accomplished. I can't say that yes, that's what we've done, but that's the hope. And I do believe that you was personally stuck for over 2 years. I was stuck in my grief, in my sadness. And it was only when I broke that pattern. So that's what the Ouroboros symbol resembles. It's that pattern that you keep doing over and over again. And it's when you can make your conscious decision to say, I'm going to break that pattern and I'm going to stop, quiet my mind, and listen for that still small voice and the sweet whispers and the goodness that we find all around us. Then you can break that pattern of being stuck in grief and sadness. And that is truly the hope, because that's what it did for us.
Is your book club open to the general public right now, or is it just for the folks that did the pre order of Servant?
Right now,
Yeah, right now in its current iteration, and we're almost through the final chapter, so it'd be hard to start again. But it's certainly a goal of ours to figure out a way to open this up, and we will definitely be doing it again for sure on the lead up to Architect.
Yeah, we have our final meeting this Tuesday of this week. So I have enjoyed the process so much that we want to figure out a way of how we can continue this and allow the Ouroboros Society to grow. So maybe the next time, hopefully there's a next time you interview us for Architect. And maybe the next time we'll have the answer to that question.
Or if anybody listening wants to start a book club, find 15, 20 people and hit us up, and we'll do this with you.
I think that is so exciting. And yes, of course, we're going to talk again. Are you kidding? I am like so highly invested in this book series. It's not even funny. I cannot wait for the next one. I'm probably going to be rereading both of them over the holidays because I can't think of a better way of doing that. And just absolutely love your books. Where can our listeners go to connect with you and be part of your community, and also to go purchase your books?
Well, if you want to connect with us, you can find us on all the socials, even the ones that are not appropriate for our age. We're put everything from TikTok to Facebook to Instagram at RJ Halbert, Halbert. And our books are available everywhere books are sold. Of course, we would love if you would go to your independent bookstore, and if they don't have it, request it, and they can certainly order it for you. And if you're in more of a hurry, you can certainly find us on Amazon, Kindle, all the places that you go to buy books. Apple Books.
Yeah.
Everywhere books are sold. Well, Rhonda and Jason, thank you both so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Well, thank you for having us on again. It's so much fun to be part of one of your moments.
Well, thank you both. It's been such an honor to spend this time together. Make sure to pick up your copy of course, Book 1, Caretaker, and Book 2, Servant. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold. And remember, support our indie retailers. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. And a shout out to all book clubs. Have Rhonda and Jason Halbert speak at your next book club meeting on either Caretaker or Servant. Make sure to reach out to them at their website, rjhalbert.com, and be part of their great community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.